Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing My Best Friend's Exorcism, written by Grady Hendrix. It's a horror that's set in the 80s, and I think it pays homage to The Exorcist, and maybe even Mean Girls, that movie Mean Girls, because some of the characters, they're based in high school, and there's some mean characters, some jock characters in the setting in this book. I read a lot of reviews after I read this book. The people were saying the author was just running on the coattails of Stranger Things, the Netflix show that's set in the 80s. I don't think so, because Stranger Things and this book both came out in the same year. I think Stranger Things may have been released a few months before this book. Books take a lot longer than a few months to be published. So when the author writes the book, they complete it, the publisher has to go through it, there's editing processes, there's whole marketing things going on, working out where it's slotting into the year to release. You don't get a book finished and released in a few months to ride on the coattails of something else. I think it's just a coincidence that this book and Stranger Things are both set in the 80s and are both sci-fi kind of horror. This is more horror, with Stranger Things being sci-fi as well, but it's just a bit of a coincidence, I think. So I think it's a bit unfair to say that the author was setting this book in the 80s just because of Stranger Things. Abby and Gretchen have been friends for years, but now they're friends with Margaret and Glee. They all go to the same school. Abby there on a scholarship, and the other girls there because their parents can afford the fees for this private school. They're having a slumber party at Margaret's house, no parents around, and they decide to go outside in the middle of the night and just lay down in a nice summer night and just talk and have fun. Gretchen goes walking in the woods. For some reason, goes missing in the woods. They can't find her. They're hunting for her all night. And then she turns up the next morning. She won't say what's happened. She looks a bit of a mess. Something's obviously happened because she seems to be in a state as well, an almost delirious, shocked state. But she won't say what's happened. She just wants to go home. But that sets the scene then for all the things that happen to Gretchen as the story goes on. And the reader assumes, something bad happened in the woods to her. We don't know what yet. But then we see changes in her personality, in her appearance. She doesn't care for her appearance anymore. Doesn't seem to want to eat or bathe or do normal things that people do every day. Gretchen's changing so much that Abby is very worried about her and trying to find out and help her talk to people. She doesn't think Gretchen's well, but nobody seems to believe Abby in this book. Nobody seems to want to understand that Gretchen is going through something. They just seem to ignore it in a way. And that's quite strange in this book. And I don't know if it's one of the themes that run through this story, that nobody seems to listen to the teenagers. And as the story progresses more and more, Abby starts to think that her friend is possessed by a demon or the devil or something. And she's trying to find help. And she does find help, but in a very strange way, from a very strange person. And I won't go into detail of what happens, but you already probably knew that the girl would be possessed because that's what the book's called, My Best Friend's Exorcism. So that's the story in a nutshell. The girl goes missing. She's found again the next morning. Then she has all these changes and she ends up being possessed, or they think she is. Then they have to exorcise that demon or whatever's in her. There's not much else to this story, really. The only thing that runs through this story other than that is people being mean to each other, especially the teenage girls. That's where the Mean Girls aspect comes into it. It's very much a high school drama in this book. You have cliques of people, being friends with somebody one day, not being friends with them the next, being mean to them for some reason, being friendly an hour later. It just changes all the time in this story. And you've got jocks who are mean to people for no reason, who think they're wonderful and the world loves them. You've got all those cliches and stereotypes in this story as well. All the horror elements in this story are diluted by the author's attempt to put humour into the story. And there are some humorous moments in the story. They're not laugh-out-loud moments. There are some shocks in the story as well, little bits of horror, but there's nothing that really chills you to the bone like a good horror story would. And that was a shame as well, because I would have thought that this story would have been more horror-esque, but I think the author's trying to just give it the 80s vibe more, style it like an 80s vibe, a bit of humour, a bit of Mean Girls action going on, bit of laughs, bit of drama, and concentrate on that and less on the horror. Abby, who's our main character, to be honest, I found her quite annoying in this book. She's very forced, and that's the way she's written in the story. Everything's very forced and in your face about Abby. There's no light and shade with her, not much nuance. She's go, 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 100% forced in your face all the time. And that made her very annoying in the book, for me anyway. I do like the fact that she's a strong character in the story though. That's a positive. And she's the one true positive, one true strong character that's trying to do the right thing all the time. And it gets her into trouble all the time because nobody believes her. But that doesn't stop her from being annoying and me being annoyed by this character. And that's a bit of a shame because in a book, should the main character annoy the reader? Sometimes maybe it's meant to be because that's the way it's written, that's the intention the author's trying to give in the book. But I'm not sure if the author was intending for this character Abby to annoy any readers when they were reading this book. Gretchen, the girl who gets possessed, and she's quite well written as a character. And her changes after she gets possessed are written quite well, and they're quite well detailed, and they feel organic. They don't actually feel forced. So the whole story arc of her going through all these changes and all the things she does in the story, it all feels very natural, feels very real. And that was clever, and it made me think that the author planned that very carefully in the plot, took some time to craft that, and I appreciated seeing that in the book. For me, Gretchen was a better character than Abby. Margaret, who's the quintessential rich mean girl in this story, very well written, because you get all the things about her, rich, spoiled, thinks she can do whatever she wants, but she's also self-aware. She's aware that she can get away with doing things other people may not. That was interesting because if you see this type of character in other books or maybe other TV shows or movies, they may not think that. They may not think of other people before themselves. And it seems that there are times when Margaret thinks about other people. So that was interesting to have that mix in this character, and it made the character seem more well-rounded in my opinion, more complex. Not a perfect character, but quite well written throughout this book. I thought I'd enjoy this book more than I did. I rated it 3 out of 5. I thought I'd enjoy it because there was a Grady Hendrix book that I read that I enjoyed very much, and it was almost a 5-star read for me, and it made me think that this author would write great books all the time. But this book falls a bit short, and I think it's because there's too much humour injected into it, too many times where the author's trying to be funny and clever and not concentrate on the horror element. I did enjoy the 80s setting. I liked the 80s vibe, because it made for a difference in the book, a whole different setting, and the high school setting was good, even though we have all those cliches of mean girls and jocks and little teenage dramas playing out through the book. That was still made it feel real, because it made the characters feel real, because the characters are teenagers, the main characters in the story. Even in moments where we're getting horror scenes and what should be horror scenes, there's all this humorous dialogue going on and humorous actions and things going on in that part, and it just diluted everything else. And that was a shame because I wanted horror. This is tabled as a horror when you read the book. People rate it as a horror, so you want to be scared, you want gripping moments and chilling moments, and this book just doesn't have them. On my channel, I do review quite a few horror books. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. There's also a horror playlist on my channel. Should be on your screen now.